reasons why breathing is so important, other than the fact that it's very useful for being alive, is that we have access to this dimension of something that is beyond us through this interfacing with the breath. And to identify with the breath is sort of to relinquish our identification with our body, if that makes sense. So when we pay attention to our breathing and we really concentrate on the flow of the in-breath and the out-breath, we recognize that this is certainly something that sustains us, and yet it is not inherently us. And therefore, we are also greater than what we are as physical beings, because we are using this breath to the point where we are one with it, if that makes sense. And in training ourselves through breathing exercises to become more in tune with the flow of energy within our bodies and how the breath obviously mediates that flow of energy. Maybe that's not obvious, but the breath can help mediate and control or move energy in the body, and it to such a powerful degree that it means that we have access to our own inner technology through the vehicle or the medium of the breath. And the technology within us is our organ systems, it's our brain, it's our nervous system. And we have the specific sort of production centers in our body. You know, you have your lungs are obviously very important for breathing, and so is your heart, and then so is your brain. And in understanding how all of this works together, it's obviously we breathe in, and then, you know, the oxygen oxygenates the blood, which then travels through the heart and then oxygenates our entire body as the blood circulates through the body, and then becomes carbonized with the carbon atoms that are in the body, which are then exhaled as carbon dioxide. And that's the, you know, long and the short of how breathing sends energy through the body. And breathing exercises can help us to manage that flow in a way where, one, our bodies become more efficient and our senses become more sensitive or refined to greater degrees of subtle energy, and then we become more able to release from our thoughts and emotions through this process that ultimately is very blissful and just often takes practice getting to that point. So in the ancient yogic traditions, there's a lot of emphasis on the breathing exercises as a means of controlling the flow to the point of not having to breathe. And so the main use of the breathing exercise is mostly to relax the muscles in the heart, because the heart is in many ways the center point of the body. And as we become more attuned to our ability to synchronize our energy with a breath, we become more aware that the breath is directly in control of this flow of energy, especially in the spine. And I know I'm repeating myself, but it's important to note that the connection between our breath and our energy is so interlinked that when we develop enough control of the breath, then we develop control of our ability to control our own organs and nervous system to the point of being able to do things like slow our breathing or slow our heart rate or lower our blood pressure or reduce anxiety. Very like basic and important things health-wise, and then also perhaps the more esoteric or spiritual things that like transcendence or bliss and things like that can arise spontaneously through this process of a deep interfacing with the breath. The main biology point behind this being that when the blood becomes less carbonized, or when there is not necessarily more oxygen in the blood, say through hyperventilating or whatever, that'll oxygenate the blood, but it'll hyperoxygenate the blood in a way that your heart ends up beating faster. So the point being is that you don't necessarily need to maximize oxygen as much as it's important to maximize, say, lung capacity, which are two different things. And then in maximizing lung capacity, recognizing that relaxing while doing that is very important and in many ways the goal. And relaxation while being conscious and alert, not falling asleep. So the point here is that we are capable of much more than what modern science might tell us, that when we reach deeper and deeper states of calmness through breathing and meditation, we can get to the point where our heart actually stops beating temporarily. And this is what's called the breathless state. And this is the one of the hallmark physiological anomalies of yoga, and it's also the place where samadhi, or the deepest state of bliss, is achieved, is through this state of the total surrender of the body into a state of peace that is essentially a suspended state of aliveness without the need for breath or heartbeat. And you can look into this on your own if you're curious, but it's a really fascinating point to really dive into and experiment with yourself, because this is directly accessible to you or to all of us. And it's really something that is most important to be very careful and respectful of these traditions. So as you experiment and explore, have a teacher, have someone who can guide you. Don't force anything. And most of this, the simplest breathing techniques will actually help you get to this place. Like, you don't even need to do a breathing exercise necessarily to get to this point. Just focusing on your breathing and starting to bring your awareness into the flow of the breath as it moves up and down the spine, and attuning to your own inner sense of awareness, calm, intuition will bring you closer to this space of total surrender into bliss. So I'm working on it. And I wish you the same. And we're here in this together. And I'm very grateful for you. Namaste. Have a beautiful day.